Yes, when you, yeah.
I have to do that to start the meeting. Just making sure.
I know, see everywhere.
Good afternoon. I'm calling this hearing of the Assembly Education to order. Welcome. I'd like to welcome the members of the committee and members of the public to our first hearing of the year, which is an informational hearing on school facilities. I'd also like to, I don't know, we had some other Assembly members who may walk in later who were invited, and we'll see if they make it. Our first order of business will be to adopt the committee rules for the year. To do that, we need to establish a quorum, which we have done. Secretary, please call the roll.
O'Donnell.
Here.
Chavez.
Here.
Kim. Here. McCarty. Santiago.
Here.
Thurman.
Here.
Weber.
Okay. Okay, a quorum has been established. The proposed rules have been circulated to your offices in advance, and they are the same as last year. Do any members have any questions about the rules?
Move approval.
Do we have a second? Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
O'Donnell.
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Chavez.
Aye.
Chavez, aye. Kim. Aye. Kim, aye. McCarty. Santiago.
Aye.
Santiago, aye. Thurman.
Aye.
Thurman, aye. Weber.
You announce a vote? Do I need to announce a vote?
5-2.
5-2, the rules have been adopted.
No, five ayes.
I'm sorry, 5 ayes.
Yes, oops. To 0, yes.
Common Core is going to take care of that. All right. All right. Again, welcome to the Assembly Education, the first Assembly Education meeting of the year on facilities. And just a little bit about me. I just left the classroom in December as a high school teacher. Previous to that, I was a middle school teacher. When I started my career well over 20 years ago in the classroom, I walked into a temporary classroom, a portable. When I walked out of the classroom in December, I walked out of a portable, temporary classroom. So I like to say I'm locally a state expert on school facilities. I participated in about 4 bond attempts in my own local school district. 2 of them did pass. I lived year-round. When I came in, we were on traditional. We went to multi-track year-round. I was the rover oftentimes. When I left, we were on the traditional school schedule. So this is something I've lived in my own experience. And school facilities, to me, are more than just the classroom, too. Certainly there's a classroom environment. 21st education deserves a 21st century classroom. But in my own experience, it's not just about what goes in the classroom. I also like to pay attention to school facilities, absent the classroom, the athletic facilities. That's very important to me as well, because those are things that keep kids busy in those after-school hours, those golden after-school hours. And that's something we really pushed in the district that I came from. We had about a quarter of our kids involved in after-school activities, and that kept them busy, again, and safe and engaged in school. I have a couple of my kids that attend Long Beach Unified School District. I have a 4th grader and a 6th grader. I see their own school facilities. I think the average school, it was just mentioned to me, in Long Beach is over 50 years old. So they certainly are in need of modernization. So, this is a big deal to me. It's a big deal to my kids. It's a big deal to the future of our state. And I want you to know that I really understand that. And I'm sure other members of the committee do as well. Now, for over 15 years, the state has played a major role in the school facility program. It's really a public-private partnership that has been successful. So I think there's some questions as to why we would change that, and I think we'll debate that and explore that a little bit today. But when I first turn it over to Mr. Chavez, I think he wanted to make a few statements. And he's the vice chair here, a good man, very much concerned about our schools and making our kids successful himself.
Thank you very much, Chair. For the public, the chair and I have gotten together and talked about education. My mic's not on, I guess. There we go. Yeah. We've gotten together and we've talked about education, and both of us have a background in it. There's nothing more critical than our children. As you know, as I like to look at it, the three components obviously is the curriculum, what we're teaching, teachers, which is very important, and then also the adequate facilities. I think it's clear to everybody that we have a problem. We need more resources for facilities. I took notice of the governor's position last time on his veto, which was actually unanimously, I believe, supported by Assembly and Senate for facilities. So we need to have a discussion on how we're going to do this. We already know it needs to be done. So I look forward to working bipartisanly on the how, because the bottom line is an investment in education is not done 1 year. It's part of an investment, a continuing investment of society in its citizens. And that's why it's important we continue to invest in this. So I look forward to working with everybody and talking as we go forward on the how we're going to do this, because it will be done.
Thank you, Mr. Chavez. And I agree. This isn't necessarily about spending, but it's about an investment. It's an investment in our own kids and our state and ultimately our future. With that, we're going to explore a variety of topics today. And our first topic is why school facilities matter. And we have with us today our Superintendent of Public Instruction, Mr. Tom Torlakson, who's going to share some thoughts on that very topic.
Are we live? Good afternoon.
We're live.
Delighted to be here. Glad to see this be your first focus as you start the year. Inaugural meeting of this Assembly Committee on Education. I want to thank you, Chairman Patrick O'Donnell, for the invitation, and for Vice Chairman Rocky Chavez for being a key part of this hearing. And each of the Assembly members, you bring with you truly a wealth of experience. I know Tony serving on school boards. I know a number of you have worked in various ways to help improve education in California. And so this hearing, so urgently important on facilities, is very, very timely. The school facilities crisis is real. As a teacher, I saw every day how important it is to have modern, up-to-date classrooms to provide a world-class education. And as superintendent, as I travel around the state, visit schools, I see the need, in many cases emergency needs, for repairs, for modernization. And yes, certain parts of California are still growing and need capacity. They need to build new facilities. As you may know, school facilities has been, as many of you have had it firsthand, as you described, Mr. Chairman, your experience, school facilities has been a top priority throughout my career in public office. In 1998, I was the architect of the basic law that ended up being passed in Senate Bill 50. There, a team of Assembly members we worked hard together, bipartisan, we crafted a school facilities program, the one we have today in California, that included a strong state contribution, a strong state match, which enticed local communities to go out, school boards, PTAs, business leaders, to go out to the voters and say, would you endorse a local measure to match into the state program? So that local-state partnership has been a centerpiece. It was a centerpiece of Proposition 1A that came out of Senate Bill 50, which I authored in terms of that proposition. And it has been a pattern that's been successful. The voters embrace the idea that the state and local communities are working together in partnerships, co-investing. I like the words that the Vice Chairman used and the Chairman used, that we're investing in the future of our students. At that time, like now, many of our schools were in serious disrepair, and like now, many of our schools are overcrowded. So we've moved forward, and 4 times the legislature put measures before the voters, the legislatures and the governors working together. 4 times, none of them have lost. They've all won. They've totaled $35 billion. And they were matched by $89 billion of local investment through local bonds. that, again, were often triggered, were inspired, were motivated by the idea that there was a state match. 50-50 on new construction. It was 80-20 on modernization rehab. In the first few years, it's now at 60-40, state share 60, local share 40 for modernization repair. But this kind of a partnership, I think the public finds sensible, logical, and good for the community, and certainly good for the students. That's a total of $124 billion that has been invested over the past 17 years, and a lot of progress has been made. The money, by and large, has been well spent. The Assembly did some hearings to look at how to update, modernize even more the process for delivering the schools through the approval process. But much has been done. We've moved thousands of students out of portables into well-constructed and well-equipped classrooms. We have modernized thousands of classrooms. We accommodated a statewide class size reduction in our K-3 classrooms. And we have built career technical education facilities and increased the use of our classrooms through local joint use partnerships with cities and counties, between local governments at that level. The program has been very, very successful. And the state's partnership in that success was essential, a centerpiece again every step of the way. The last state funding came from a voter-approved bond back in, it seems like it was quite a while back, 2006. So the program coffers are simply empty. It is time to act. Now is the time for additional state funding, and I believe it should be a bond or it should be some other source, but not Prop 98 funding. As you know, the bonds are debt service through the general fund. We need the Prop 98 money to continue the operations and the classroom instruction and meeting the new state standards and all the other challenges we have. So the need is great. Over 50% of our schools, it's like mentioned by the chair, Patrick O'Donnell, that we have over 50% of our school facilities are 25 years old. Long Beach is over 50 years old. And here we also have 10% of our school buildings are 75 years or older. And as I travel again up and down the state, examples of schools having to manage with inadequate, outdated, or inappropriate buildings and classrooms and gyms and cafeterias and sporting facilities, we can and we must do better. We are now requiring so much more from our schools, our teachers, our students, and our administrators. Again, we've recently adopted these new rigorous state standards in English and science and English language development and mathematics to prepare our students for 21st century college careers and being part of the new economy. We've expanded our career technical education, and our schools and classrooms need to be ready for this new and exciting and demanding learning. And career technical education equipment and classrooms often require more expensive construction than others, but it works. These programs, which you've invested in, I congratulate the Assembly and the Senate for working together. The $250 million in the Career Pathways grants, the first round went out and is doing successful work. The next 250 is going forward. We're seeing these programs so successful that graduation rates are 90, 95, often 100%, because students are motivated and they're ready with skills to work in our economy and to go on to college. Additionally, we have the No Child Left Offline challenge. We need to be connected to the internet for the engaging, exciting learning opportunities, the individualized learning opportunities that come with internet connectivity and bandwidth and Wi-Fi. And so we need to invest as well. And the state budget is proposed this year and some last year to invest some money. $100 million is in this year's budget. But the need is much bigger than that, and a state bond could go along the way of modernizing our schools and connecting to the internet. Great school facilities, safe, well-lighted, well-ventilated, and well-equipped, are critical to our students' and our teachers' success. Studies have linked student achievement and teacher job satisfaction to excellent facilities. So as you review the school facilities program and consider reforms, I encourage you to think classrooms, not just as little boxes that hold 24 or 35 or 40 students, but rather as places where the future of the state of California is being determined. Great school facilities are important to everyone, and it's only fitting that the state continue to invest in our schools and be the strong partner we have historically been. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for the hearing, and be glad to answer any questions. Appreciate what you're doing.
Thank you, Mr. Superintendent. I think what I heard you say is something I'm a firm believer in, is that a quality school facility sets the tone for the day. and an educational career. And I think that's very important. We need to show our students that we respect them too. And I think we do that by providing quality school facilities.
Absolutely.
So thank you for being here today.
Thank
With
you.
that, do any of the committee members have questions for the superintendent? Ms. Kim?
Mr. Tollickson, thank you for being here. Yes. Thank you. I agree with you that good facilities matter and that the learning environment is enhanced and children benefit from appropriate and clean schools. But I would like to ask if there is a limit. Should the state participate in the what some might call indulgent school construction projects like the Robert F. Kennedy Community School in LAUSD, which ultimately cost taxpayers over $500 million to build? If the state has a role, does the state have the authority to stop such projects?
Well, there are guidelines, and this is something obviously the committee and the legislature should consider, guidelines for receiving the state match. What school districts do with the local money they raise through philanthropy, through going to their own voters, is something that fits. They have, subsidiarity, they have control over how they spend that. But there can be guidelines in terms of the match, in terms of how that is done. The attempt in Senate Bill 50 was to economize and to see schools reuse architectural plans so you don't have Taj Mahal's, customized monuments to the big thinking of a particular school board at a particular time. And I believe that those kinds of abuses and those kind of excesses have been reduced greatly under the current program. Obviously, you can look at other means for doing further restrictions or qualifications.
Thank you, Ms. Kim. Any other members wish to comment? Mr. Thurman.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Superintendent Torlakson. I'd love it if you would talk a little bit more about the link between school building facilities and academic achievement. You referenced it in your comments, and I agree with you 100%. Having served in the same community as you, having served on a school board where we have a very robust school building program in Richmond and West Contra Costa, I have seen how the interest in a school that has been rebuilt or modernized has generated new interest from parents and families who previously left the school district and returned, and in many ways helped to strengthen what happens in our classroom. But I'd love it if you'd talk a little bit about it, because I know sometimes people are critical about school building programs in a way that I think it would be helpful if we can show that there is, in fact, in addition to, as you said, creating technological opportunities, helping local folks to get work and rebuilding and modernizing our schools, but there actually is an academic benefit for our students. If you'd say a little bit more about that, please.
Thank you, Assemblymember Thurman. And yes, study after study shows, and we have a report that collated a lot of those studies. We can give you each a copy of that we did a year and a half ago. Shows that a well-lit, designed classroom with the space, with the acoustics correct, with the technological equipment installed, results in better academic results. And going to the chairman's point and your point as well, it's also a sign of the priority we place education and place our students in, that it's a sign of respect to have the world-class facilities that our students need. If we're educating our students in relics of the last century, it's not as wholesome, it's not as conducive to good learning. So that investment pays big dividends all around. And then you go to the technical side of getting wired and connected to the internet and to the engaging learning opportunities. So bandwidth and Wi-Fi and other needs that districts can make long-term investments in make sense. And career technical education facilities, again, whether it's computer sciences, whether it's medical and health sciences, whether it's engineering, you need place for the equipment and the special facility needs of those kinds of programs. And those students are coming out of our high schools first in record numbers. Graduation rates are up and dropout rates are down, and they're contributing. They're ready to go to work in the economy or ready to go to college and contribute.
Thank you, sir.